So, who is St. John Paul II? Pope John Paul II was elected to the papacy in 1978. He was pope for 26 years until 2005, and he changed the face of the church and of the planet. This man spoke more about marriage, family, and sexuality than any other person in human history. He wrote 3,000 pages a year during his pontificate alone, usually by hand or by typewriter. He traveled to 129 countries during his papacy alone, and he canonized more saints than like the past 1,000 years in the history of the church, just to give us an example of the universal call to holiness with all lay people, priests, religious. And this man also established Divine Mercy Sunday for the Universal Church in the year 2000 and canonized St. Faustina, who was a Polish mystic from his home country, to show the world a need for divine mercy, especially with the woundedness and the chaos of our current culture. So what does that have to do with the theology of the body? Well, John Paul II wrote a encyclical called Catechesis Tradendae shortly after he became pope, right in the midst of his deliverance of the theology of the body. So it was all on how do you catechize the church. And his encyclical talks about how you start gradually and you go ever more deeply into the heart of Christ. And his theology of the body follows the process of catechizing someone more closely than any other encyclical or document or letter or book he ever wrote. And so John Paul II knew what the world needed, and it was a deeper understanding of the human person and our call to greatness. And he knew this because of his childhood, his upbringing. By the time he was 20 years old, his mother, his father, his sister, and his brother had all died. And then in the midst of that, losing his father was the final family member right as the Nazis invaded Poland, beginning World War II. He saw many of his friends murdered right in front of him. He lost friends in the concentration camps. And then when they suddenly were liberated by Nazism, they were infiltrated by communism. And for the next 40 years after World War II, they had to fight this silent materialistic secularism that attempted to steal their Polish culture. John Paul II memorized plays. He went underground during the Nazi occupation to create theater and to preserve their culture. And when the communists took over, he would actually, as a priest now, by 1946, he was ordained a priest in an underground seminary, mind you. He would take young people into the wilderness to do canoe trips and hiking and skiing. And from those conversations with these young people seeking love, he wrote his book, Love and Responsibility. And that was the precursor to his theology of the body years later.